Every day, without warning, something slips past your defenses. It lands quietly in your inbox, your messages, your social feed. You glance at it, roll your eyes, and delete it. But what if that tiny moment of annoyance was actually part of something enormous? What if every spam message you have ever received was a calculated move inside a billion-dollar machine? What if the senders already knew you would ignore it, and they sent it anyway because ignoring it was never the point? Here is the detail that changes everything. Somewhere right now a spam campaign is running with a response rate of less than 1%, and it is still generating a profit. Not because people are clicking, not because anyone is being fooled. Something else entirely is keeping this economy alive. And by the end of this, you will never look at a spam message the same way again. Think about the last spam message you received. Maybe it promised a lottery win. Maybe it offered a miracle cure or a suspicious investment opportunity. You deleted it without a second thought, and you moved on with your day. Most people do exactly that. But here is the question nobody asks when they hit delete. Who sent that message, and why do they keep sending it when almost nobody responds? It seems irrational, almost absurd, that an entire industry could survive on the back of messages that the vast majority of the world ignores. And yet it does. Not just survives, but thrives. Spam is one of the most persistent and profitable industries in the digital world, operating largely in the shadows, invisible to the people it targets and misunderstood even by those who study it. Every platform you use is saturated with it. Email inboxes receive it by the billions every single day. Text messages carry it. Social media timelines are riddled with it. Automated comment sections flooded across forums and video platforms. Spam is everywhere, and yet most of us treat it like digital wallpaper, something so ordinary we have stopped noticing it at all. But behind every one of those messages is a chain of decisions, tools, transactions, and systems working in near-perfect coordination. The person who sent that email promising you a fortune did not type it out manually. They did not find your address in a phone book. There is an entire apparatus built specifically to deliver that message to you. And understanding that apparatus begins with a question that most people never think to ask. If almost nobody responds to spam, how does it possibly make money? That question has an answer, and it is far stranger than you might expect. The mysterious detail hidden inside this industry is not about who gets fooled. It is about something that happens long before anyone reads a single word. So let us pull back the curtain on the machinery itself. Imagine a network of computers scattered across dozens of countries, humming quietly in server rooms, basements, and data centers. These machines are not owned by their operators in the traditional sense. Many of them were hijacked, quietly infected by malware, turned into obedient tools without their owners ever knowing. This network is called a botnet, and it is one of the foundational technologies of the modern spam economy. A single botnet can contain hundreds of thousands of compromised machines. Each one is capable of sending thousands of emails per hour. Multiply that across the entire network, and you begin to understand why the numbers are so staggering. Researchers estimate that over 45% of all email traffic sent globally every single day is spam. Not a small fraction. Not a niche problem. Nearly half of all email on Earth. On some days that figure climbs even higher. We are talking about hundreds of billions of messages every 24 hours, fired out by automated systems running continuously, requiring almost no human supervision once they are set in motion. Now here is the question that should stop you cold. If you were sending 300 billion messages a day, and fewer than 1 in 1,000 people responded, would you consider that a failure? Most people would, but the spam economy would not. Because the math when you run it at that scale tells a completely different story. If just 1% of 1% of 300 billion messages generates a transaction, that is still 3 million transactions. And if each transaction generates even a few dollars in revenue, you are looking at tens of millions of dollars from a campaign that most of the world threw directly in the trash. The volume is not a bug in the system. The volume is the entire point. But even that does not fully explain the mysterious detail introduced at the very beginning. Because the money is not always coming from where you think. To understand how the spam industry actually operates as a business, you have to think of it less like cybercrime and more like a franchise. At the top of the structure are the architects, the coders, and strategists who build the infrastructure. They create the botnets, the spam templates, the delivery systems, and the obfuscation tools that help messages slip past filters. These people rarely send a single piece of spam themselves. Instead, they rent their infrastructure to others. It is software as a service, except the service is flooding the world with unwanted messages. Below them are the campaign operators, the people who lease access to the botnet, purchase massive databases of email addresses, and design the actual messages. These databases are bought and sold constantly on dark web marketplaces, traded like commodities, updated with fresh addresses scraped from websites, stolen in data breaches, or harvested by fake sign-up forms. A list of 1 million verified email addresses can sell for surprisingly little, sometimes just a few $100s, because the margins in spam are built on volume, not on the value of any single address. Once a campaign operator has their list and their message, they set the automation running and wait. The messages go out by the millions. Most land in spam folders or bounce entirely. A fraction make it through. Of that fraction, a fraction of a fraction are opened. And of those, a tiny percentage result in some kind of action. But what kind of action, and what does it actually generate? This is where the business model fractures into multiple streams. Some campaigns are selling counterfeit goods, fake pharmaceuticals, knockoff luxury products. Others are phishing operations designed to steal credentials and financial data. Some are promoting affiliate offers, legitimate products promoted through illegitimate channels, where the spammer earns a commission for every sale they drive. Others are pushing malware, infecting machines to expand the botnet itself, creating a self-perpetuating loop of infection and exploitation. Each stream feeds into the next, and the entire ecosystem sustains itself with remarkable efficiency. The numbers, when examined honestly, are almost incomprehensible. Global spam costs the world economy an estimated $20 billion annually. That figure includes lost productivity, the cost of filtering systems, the bandwidth consumed, the security breaches enabled, and the fraud that gets through. Some estimates place the figure even higher when secondary effects are included. Entire industries exist solely because spam exists. Anti-spam technology is a multi-billion-dollar sector. Cybersecurity firms employ thousands of researchers whose primary job is understanding and countering spam-related threats. Internet service providers spend enormous resources filtering traffic before it ever reaches a user. And still, nearly half of all email is spam. Still, the volume grows. Still, the campaigns keep running. Consider for a moment what $20 billion in annual economic damage actually represents. It is comparable to the GDP of many small nations. It is more than the global box office of some of the most successful entertainment franchises in history. It is an invisible tax paid by every person, every company, and every institution that uses the internet. And yet the people running this economy face remarkably low barriers to entry. The tools are cheap, the infrastructure is rentable, the lists are purchasable, the automation is available. Someone with modest technical knowledge and a small budget can launch a spam campaign reaching millions of people within hours. What other industry offers that kind of reach for that kind of investment? And here is the question that keeps cybersecurity experts awake at night. If stopping spam were truly possible, why has it not happened yet? Return now to the mysterious clue, the one introduced at the very start. A spam campaign running at less than 1% response rate, still generating profit, still running, still expanding. You might have assumed the profit came from the small number of people who clicked, who bought something, who got tricked. And that is part of the answer. But only part. What makes this detail truly strange is that some spam campaigns are profitable even when nobody responds at all. Because response was never the only goal. Spam is also infrastructure. It is reconnaissance. It is a testing mechanism for finding which email addresses are active, which filters can be bypassed, which domains are vulnerable. Every message that bounces or gets filtered generates data. Every address that opens a message confirms its validity, making it worth more on the next database sale. The act of sending spam creates economic value independent of whether anyone clicks, buys, or responds. The spam is not just a message. It is a probe. And the ecosystem built around collecting, refining, and reselling that probe data is itself a shadow economy running parallel to the more visible scams and phishing operations. So when you wonder how spam survives on fractions of a percent, the answer is that survival was never dependent on your response. Your inbox was never really the target. Your data was. And now the full picture assembles itself. Spam is not a nuisance industry scraping by on gullibility. It is a sophisticated, self-sustaining economic system built on automation, scale, infrastructure rental, data harvesting, affiliate commission, and the relentless exploitation of digital connectivity. The botnet operators profit whether their clients succeed or fail. The data brokers profit whether the emails are opened or deleted. The affiliate networks profit from the tiny fraction of sales that slip through, and every layer of this system is constantly refining itself, learning from every filter, adapting to every defense, evolving in real time. The spammers do not need you to believe their message. They do not need you to click anything. They need the system to keep running. And at the scale they operate, the system always pays for itself. So the next time a spam message lands in your inbox, before you delete it, consider what it actually represents. It is not a mistake. It is not desperation. It is one tiny node in a global economic system that generates billions of dollars annually, employing thousands of people, sustaining entire underground markets, and operating with a ruthless efficiency that most legitimate industries would envy. Something universally hated, universally ignored, and yet impossible to eradicate. Something that funds itself on your data before you ever read a single word. If the most unwanted messages in the world can sustain a billion-dollar economy, what does that tell you about the true nature of the internet you think you understand? And more unsettling still, what else is quietly profitable precisely because you stopped paying attention?